This is the Griffin Realty Group Ask-A-Griffin podcast, episode number 11. Does the buyer really know how they would stage your house? Are you a buyer, seller, or real estate agent who has questions about buying or selling residential property, but you can't seem to find an easy way to get the answers? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Griffin Realty Group and the host of the Ask-A-Griffin podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction, if you need to sell or buy property now or in the near future, you can take advantage of our free step-by-step guides that are waiting for you at griffincourses.com. That's GRIFFIN courses.com. All right, let's deal with this. Staging is the new series that we want to go through here, staging your property. And it starts off with this question: does the buyer really know how they would stage your house? In other words, how would they put their own stuff into your house if they were to buy it? And it starts off with the first point here. This is in my experience after doing this for many, many years and coaching people through it for many years as well. The majority of buyers don't have a vision at all for how furniture fits into a house. It's just not what they do. It's very difficult for people to walk into a home, room to room to room, and really see, envision how they would set stuff up that they own. And certainly, if you go back to the last series about cleaning your property, meaning reconditioning it inside and out and getting rid of stuff, that has a lot to do with this next stage. If there is less personal stuff, it's not so much that they get distracted by the pictures of you and your family and your adventures, whatever it might be. It's just that there's too much to comprehend. It's overwhelming, and less is more. And so when they come in there, they're trying to make this massive financial and emotional decision to buy your property. Are you making it easier on them to envision how to make that happen? You see, when somebody first comes into a property, they've already passed through the front yard or the building, wherever it may be, and they've already made an assessment or a judgment of what the property's like on the exterior. And immediately once they come in, they begin to make a judgment about whether or not the layout is right for them. And there's not much you're going to do about it at that point, right? I mean, the house is what it is. The rooms are what they are. You're not going to reconstruct it, most likely, for a buyer, especially in a major way. It's not going to happen. The house is what it is. So these spaces become really important. Your house is a conglomeration of a variety of spaces, from kitchens to living rooms to dens to bedrooms, etc. Right? This is how they have to come in and deal with it. So they start to ask themselves, well, how would I do this? And you can see them perplexed. They're trying to figure it out spatially. And again, unless they're an artist or they're maybe in the furniture business or the decorating business, very, very few of them come well equipped professionally to be able to do that quickly like that. And remember, these showings are typically short, even a long one. Let's say there's somebody's there for an hour trying to figure this all out, looking inside and outside. They're trying to process, and they have the struggle of this limited vision. So again, by the way, a little tip for all you real estate agents that are listening to this. This is where you can begin to suggest. Find out what they're thinking about their furniture. I mean, especially you buyers agents that are walking through with people. Don't sit there like a deaf mute. Talk to people about this. Well, where would you put your stuff? What would it look like? What's important to you? And try to help them deal with the space. I do it all the time. It's very important to talk through it, especially when you hear somebody who's having a dilemma. Because the question they're asking themselves first, typically, I find, is there enough space for my furniture? And believe me, parting with furniture is difficult, especially in the market on Cape Cod, where you might be downsizing if you have lived off Cape, for example. So you might be coming to Cape Cod because you're retiring and you just don't want all that stuff, but you just can't part with that dining room table. This is one that comes up all the time. The big, beautiful family dining room table. It's been passed down generation to generation, and you're coming out of a big house and you're coming into a small house and you walk in and you say, it won't fit. I love this place. I've heard this, by the way, many times. I love this place, but I just can't fit my dining room table. I mean, it's sort of like looking at a tenant who has a dog or a cat and they're not allowed, and looking at them and saying, well, why don't you just get rid of the dog or the cat? You could get killed. I mean, literally, right? I mean, the looks could kill. Let's put it that way. So it's the same with furniture for people. It's just not easy for them to part with some pieces. So be ready for that. But if it can, if there's a way, if there's an idea, I can think of this house that we just sold. There was a big, massive table there, and that wasn't important to them. So it was as important to say, okay, look at how would you live? Well, we have more of a casual table. Well, wonderful. When this comes out, you'd put that sideways, then you'd put right after that some more casual couching. Boom. They could see it like that. So sometimes it's not just, is there enough space? It's also, well, how would I reconfigure this to put my stuff in it? But you have to understand that furniture is very personal to people. That's the stuff we live on. Right? We live on our beds. We live on our kitchen tables, on our chairs. We put our things down on our tables. So it's very important to consider that although they have a limited vision, they're also trying to make it work and see and imagine their room to this. And spatially, that's really tough to do, right? You're not sitting in one house and the other, measuring spots. Sometimes people are smart enough to come with a measuring tape and they will look at it, or in a second showing, they'll do that. So the next spot here is there really too much space for my furniture? Because furnishing a big house is costly and overwhelming for a lot of people. It's one thing to go and spend an enormous amount of money on a property, even if somebody has a lot of money, and that's not the issue. They can easily afford the property. It's elegant. It overlooks the ocean. It has a view of the city, whatever it might be. It's also, this is a lot of stuff that I now have to be inconvenienced to go out and buy. And now I have to hire a designer, or I have to go to a furniture store, and it can become overwhelming. So whether it's just too costly or overwhelming, whatever it might be, they're also looking at to see if it's too much space. So again, to be proactive, you'd like to show it typically with enough furniture in it to make it feel cozy without making it feel stuffed, right? So you're always trying to balance these. Well, for a little footnote here, when I'm dealing with a builder, and this has happened in the last couple of years where I know two builders who put up these beautiful homes, and one of them had a funky room. And I said, look, you can't leave this without furniture in here because this is confusing to people. It's a really cool, fun layout, and there's some great attributes, but this is confusing. You have to have this stage. So I introduced him to a stager, and then shortly thereafter, he had some success. And that's actually happened twice to him before. And in the other case, they didn't want to stage the whole house because the bedrooms were a little bit more straightforward, but they staged the whole downstairs, and it made an enormous difference. It actually cozied it up too, instead of leaving these barren spaces. So remember that this is a big issue. Let me reiterate these points, okay? That the first stage in staging and considering it is asking yourself, does the buyer really know how they would stage my house with their stuff? And the answer is probably not, because point number one, the majority have a limited vision. Point number two, they're worried about, is there enough space? Because I'm not going to part with furniture. So if you don't have enough physical space, you don't have enough physical space. That's just the way it's going to happen. But in some other cases, if you have a big house, you want to try to make it feel cozy without being too much so people aren't overwhelmed or they fear the cost. All right? So to chunk it up this way, it's important to remember that buyers have very limited vision when it comes to how to stage your house. So you're going to have to deal with this issue of staging, and we'll continue the series over the next couple of podcasts. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the near future by getting our free step-by-step guides on how to go through the process correctly and safely, and they're waiting for you at griffincourses.com. That's GRIFFIN courses.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen so you don't miss out on any of these insights each time we upload an episode. We also post all of our episodes on our social media channels, so remember, turn on those notifications for Griffin Realty Group and you won't miss the reminders. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you would share this with somebody who's in need of these tips because they're thinking about buying or selling in the near term. Remember, thanks for listening, and nobody's coming for you to help you get a plan together to buy or sell property. So go get to work on your own plan by taking advantage at griffincourses.com. We'll see you in the next episode.